P1 will start first because P1 is the only job available, right? So here at the beginning at 0 milliseconds, only P1 is available, right? So P2, P3, P4 is not available, right? Therefore, what happens is when we start P1, P1 will go for 10 milliseconds and complete. Right? So at 10 milliseconds, what happens is we have P2, P3, P4, P5. So all processors have arrived to the ready queue. 10 milliseconds, right? Then out of that, we have to select the shortest job between P2, P3, P4, and P5, right? So P5 is the shortest because the burst time is the shortest. So next it would be P5 go from 10 milliseconds to 15 milliseconds. Right? Then next shortest is P2. P2 will go from 15 to 23. Right? Next P4. P4 will go from 23 to 35. Then P3 as is the last. P3 will go from 35 to 50. Right? Then we can calculate the waiting time, turnaround time, and response time. So here also you can see the waiting time is equal to the response time. Right? So P1 waiting time is 0. Response time is also 0 because immediately it will take for the execution. Turnaround time is 10. P2 waiting time. So P2 arrives at 1 millisecond. We'll get the first response at 15 milliseconds. Therefore, waiting time is 14 as well as response time. Turnaround time it completes at 23, comes at 1 millisecond. So turnaround time is 22. Right? Then P3 arrives at 2 milliseconds but get the first response at 35 milliseconds. Right? So waiting time is 33. Turnaround time completes at 50. So arrives to the ready queue at, right? P3 arrives at 2 milliseconds. Right? Therefore, turnaround time is 48. Response time again is same as the waiting time, and P4 gets the first chance at 23 milliseconds, arrives at 5 milliseconds. Right? Turnaround time completes at 35, arrives at 5 milliseconds. So the turnaround time is 30. right? P5 arrives at 8 milliseconds, gets the chance at 10 milliseconds, so waiting time is 2 milliseconds. P5 turnaround time is 15, arrives at 8 milliseconds, so 15 minus 8 is the turnaround time. Right? So here what you need to understand is when there are large processors like P3, even though it arrives at 2 milliseconds, it has to wait for 33 milliseconds. Right? So that is why this particular approach, shortest job first, will have a problem called starvation. Right? So one process has to wait for a long period without getting the execution. Right? So if there are more processors with smaller burst times, so that means P3 has to wait even further. Right? So that means P3 might get starvation. Right? So how to overcome this? So we assign a priority integer. Right? So for example, let's say the shortest ones will get the lower value, that means higher priority. Right? So longer processors will get low priority, that means higher values. So that integer values will be reduced one by one for a particular time frame. Let's say every 20 milliseconds, that value will be decreased. So based on that, a long process will also get a chance quickly. So do you have any questions in shortest job first?